Each and every All Souls Day, unlike any other day throughout the year, the priest is given the faculties to celebrate 3 Masses that day. The reason being is that this is a fundamental way whereby we promote the intentions of everlasting life. The purpose is not just to pay respects. It's not just to say goodbye. It's something far greater. For when the priest celebrates the Eucharist, especially with the intention of the deceased, the names of the deceased are brought before the person of Christ, or the priest acting at the altar of God. And the priest, not only recognizing the names, but taking to heart his role as Christ to suffer and die with them, so that they too will rise with him to everlasting life. The theology of St. Paul in that second reading is that if we, each and every one of us, despite our feelings, despite our sorrows, if each and every one of us understand that we have a role in lifting people to newness of life, and we take that seriously, we have been given the power by Christ himself to call to mind those persons who are precious and dear to us, so as to have them lifted into the eternal banquet, the eternal Eucharist celebrated in heaven. So this celebration is meant to be about a celebration of newness of life. The whole purpose isn't just to say goodbye once again. The whole purpose is that we, as a parish community, gather with the knowledge and understanding that our loved ones who have been baptized into Christ and chose to live like Christ and give themselves for others throughout their life, that God indeed calls them according to his will, as we hear in that gospel, to newness of life. For he will not abandon any we seek the forgiveness of sins. That's what honoring our loved ones is. You have 2 ways to honor someone: to acknowledge the good they've done before God and others, and you all have your memories of those who loved and those who gave of themselves time and time again. But also those times, because none of us are perfect, whereby by seeking forgiveness of one another, the same forgiveness lifts somebody up. The weight of sin, as depicted in the Old Testament, of an elderly woman stooped over in sin, by forgiving her sin, she's able to stand up, recognize the dignity of each and every person, and see the glory of God. We come to celebrate life this night, to celebrate the hopes and joys and aspirations of each and every person who's ever walked the face of the earth. We even include the likes of Adam, who the name where Christ was suffered and died was on Calvary, the place of the skull. According to St. Luke, whose skull was that? Adam's. So it's the inclusion of each and every person. And we take the time to acknowledge what Christ taught, that life is changed, not ended. In fact, Catholic Christians acknowledge that what we refer to as a place of rest, a cemetery, means a place of sleep. The word literally means sleep, not death, until they're awakened in glory. And at the Mass of Christian burial, the Paschal candle, which acknowledges the resurrection of Christ himself, who shatters the darkness of sin and death at the Easter Vigil and illumines the church and brings new life, the joy of Easter, and brings hope, not despair. We, on this evening, on behalf of all our loved ones who passed away this year, we'll take the light from that Paschal candle and light the candles of those whose names have indeed from our parish passed away. And as that candle is lit, it is then presented to each and every one of the family members to acknowledge that we believe that they are resurrected and with Christ. For that's what Christ promised. We don't believe in death. That's why we don't refer to as a cemetery as a necropolis or city of the dead. No, we come to celebrate life, to celebrate joy, and we come to be in communion with our loved ones, whereby we receive the Eucharist of those in the past, those in the present, and those in the future. For when we celebrate the Eucharist, we don't just celebrate with those here, we celebrate with all the saints who we acknowledged and celebrated yesterday. And we celebrated with our great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren of the future. They receive the Eucharist with us. Because God is past, present, and future. So we come with the understanding of what Jesus taught, that he is the bearer of all life. And nothing that the Father has given him will ever be lost. We take the time to acknowledge their names. We present their names before God, who knows them, who created them, who made them in their image and likeness, and all those who chose to live and to live with Christ are indeed doing so today. Do we, as the church militant, pray? Sure. We offer sacrifice for our loved ones because they sacrificed for us. They gave of themselves in such a way that we could never make up for it. Our parents, our grandparents, all those who conveyed love are included on this day and presented before God, called by name. That's why we here at St. Mary's acknowledge each and every name of a loved one who's passed away, not just even this year like we do today, but throughout the whole entire month of November. Because we know this is the single greatest thing we can do for them. It doesn't ease the feelings of sorrow or grief, but we act in understanding and truth that what Jesus promised is reality. And he will indeed bring us together into everlasting life for all time. For we're called to share not just resurrected life, but eternal life with all the saints in the new and eternal Jerusalem. That's our effort. And if we can seek the forgiveness of sins of all people, if we can take the time to understand that we have this power and we use it at our best, we can find assurances that our loved ones' lives have changed, that they're not ended, and they share in the joy of everlasting life. May we keep their names in our minds and our hearts. And I suggest to those, even those who could not be here today, we will deliver those candles to your home. For we want you to remember your loved one in a special way, but in the light of truth, the light of the resurrection, and the light of all eternity. May God bless them, bless you and your families, those of the past and those of the future. For our God so loved us that he is willing to give his only begotten Son for us, so that we can indeed be one with God, eternal in heaven.